What's going on, my fellow Jedis and Padawans? Today, we're going to be taking you through a little god roll guide while you guys are grinding out that beautiful, beautiful dungeon that we got. Hopefully, y'all are getting some drops that you want, some god rolls, some gear, that new exotic, you know what I'm saying, emblems, everything like that. But today, we're going to be covering this LMG, the Watchful Eye, which you can get adept versions of this as well as normal versions just by running the Nether. This is an aggressive frame, high damage, high recoil, so 600 RPM LMG, pretty solid, pairs very well this season with the arc buffs that got on some of those different arc bolt buffs that we got, you know, stuff like that. So it pairs very well this season inside of PvE, and it can do some pretty good work in PvP. So let's get into the god rolls for this bad boy. For the origin traits for these weapons from the Nether, we got two different origin traits that you can get on this. Like I said in my last video, when you're running through the Nether, you have the chance to get normal versions of the weapon as well as already masterworked versions of the weapon, which those already masterworked versions will have two perks in the third and fourth column as well as an extra origin trait. Same thing with the adept versions, you just got to go through the expert version of the Nether to get that adept versions of it. Very rare to get the fully masterworked, but we are getting that extra origin trait. So first origin trait is the new one that you get on all of the weapons, is that willing vessel. Dealing damage or defeating targets with the weapon grants gradually increased stability, handling, reload, and charge rate. Effective more when you are near allies, so pretty good perk, especially with the thing you get that damage, you get reload speed, stuff like that. So I do like this on this LMG. The other one is Runneth Over, which is a King's Fall perk that we got on all of those weapons. You know, that goes hand in hand. We're back on the Dreadnought, Son of Crota, everything like that, Oryx, Crota, you know what I'm saying. But we got reloading near allies, overflows the magazine, pretty nice in my personal opinion, definitely for this LMG as well, because that overflow with what we can throw on this bad boy with like an appended mag, backup mag, you can get a pretty good amount of bullets in this bad boy. And we got overflow with some other perks on this that pair well with arc. So I do like both of these origin traits, kind of totally up to you which one you want to use for PvE. First column for using this thing, I definitely felt like stability needed to be addressed as well as range, so we can get them about the same with this, how I have it built out, with me going small bore as our barrel for this bad boy and a ranged masterwork, getting them about the same, like I said, at that like 65 range for both range and stability. Second column, we got appended mag. We're getting plus 11 in that magazine, like I said, pairs well with the overflow that we're gonna get from Runneth Over. The more shots in this bad boy, the better, especially with the combination of perks that we have in the third and fourth columns. Third column, we got overflow as our first option. Like I said, with that Runneth Over, kind of crazy being able to reload over that normal capacity by picking up special or heavy. For my blind stormtroopers out there like me, one eye, you know what I'm saying, we got ourselves mulligan as well, so missing a shot has a chance to return ammo directly to the magazine. Not a bad option as well in my personal opinion. And then our last one is that eddy current, temporarily gain us that reload and handling after sprinting or well amplified, increased when amplified. So I like this because we can get amplified alone with this weapon because of the fourth column. We're going to get something, and on top of that, it pairs well, like I said, with the arc subclasses as well as just in general. If you're using prismatic, you can get that going on with amplified very easily. So this is a good little option for me. I think overall though, if you're running this, I would go with overflow as your number one option, with eddy current probably as my number two, mulligan as my number three, but that would totally be up to you between eddy current and mulligan. But I do think overflow is probably your best option to throw on, just because it's super easy to get procced, pairs well with Runneth Over, and you can get a lot of shots on an enemy. Right here is one of the reasons why that overflow eddy current are so good, is that jolting feedback. Repeatedly dealing damage jolts the target, amplified causes the jolt to be applied faster. Definitely my number one choice. A second option, which is a new trait that we got from this episode, Rolling Storm. Final blows grant us bolt charges, while amplified final blows gain additional bolt charges. Definitely very good for raining that lightning down and that arc synergy. Last two options, not really sure which one I would go with over these two, but we got surrounded as our first option, so we gain that damage when enemies are in close proximity. We also got target lock, which we gain damage the longer we're doing damage on a target. So if we got something like overflow, having having that is super good, but as soon as you miss a shot, target lock does go away. So if you can get into an encounter with surrounded, probably the better option. But for me, like I said, jolting feedback, definitely my number one choice, with probably rolling storm as my second. I really like those bolt charges as verb that we have, or a new arc buff, whatever you want to call it, for this episode. But after that, you could go with surrounded probably as your number 3 in my personal opinion. This thing was slapping pretty good inside of that expert nether, was feeling good, like I said, with the arc synergy, creating jolting, everything like that. So I would give this thing probably like a 4.4, 4.5 out of 5 for the PvE realm. Definitely got some pretty good options on it, especially if you can get the combination of the double origin trait version of it, whether it be the normal or the adept version. So definitely get to grinding out that nether. On to the PvP side of this, which LMGs definitely are my go-to. I still think something like my hammerhead feels a little bit better than this bad boy, but it was feeling pretty decent. So again, I went with small bore as my barrel in a range masterwork. Got this thing up to 70 in range, 75 in stability, so feeling definitely pretty crispy inside of the crucible. I think there's really two options in the second column for you. You got high caliber rounds, which gives you a little extra range at +5, but it increases the flinch on those fellow guardians. And then you got ricochet rounds as well, which gives you +5 to range, but also +10 to stability. So I think ricochet for me feels a little bit better because of that stability, like I said. But you could also go with that high cal rounds if you're looking to flinch those enemies a little bit more. But having this be a high damage LMG anyways, its recoil is pretty gnarly, or I should say the flinch is pretty gnarly that you're putting on enemies. Third column, I think two options. Really, this is your best one with dynamic sway reduction. You get increased accuracy and stability while continuously holding down the triggers, but you don't have that many shots just picking up one single brick. And you could really go with eddy current too, because you get that handling and reload speed after sprinting are well amplified. And for me, I'm always running around, so that handling, not a bad thing in my personal opinion, but definitely I think the number one choice is that dynamic sway. Nothing else really speaks to me inside of that third column. Maybe Wellspring, so you could get some generation of your ability energy, but dynamic sway is what you should be looking for. I think that this is really your only option as well for the fourth column. Nothing varies in this weapon for the PvP realm, if you will. This final blows with this weapon grants damage. You can see the PvP, you're getting 20% at that 2 stacks, 15% at 1, all the way up to 50, unless that 20% is just overall for PvP, but that's better than all the other damage increases that we can get from this column, anything like that. So sword logic for me would be your only choice. Definitely I would go with that sword logic with the combination of dynamic sway, ricochet rounds, and small bore with that range masterwork as your 5 out of 5 for the crucible. Very good combination, but like I said, I kind of like something like the hammerhead better with that 450 RPMs instead of the 600s. But again, that is up to you and a personal preference. I would give this thing like a good 4.0 though out of 5 for the crucible. Pretty solid for an LMG, not as good as like a 4.6, 4.5, which the hammerhead is in my personal opinion, but still a very good option. Very good for PvP, PvE. Hopefully this doesn't bore you, all of these god roll guides that we're going to give you, but we got a lot of new weapons that came out this season, reprised weapons. We got Vogue weapons that got re-released. We got a new dungeon as well. It is pretty crazy, so be ready for a lot of god roll weapons, a lot of builds to give you guys as well. So appreciate you guys for always coming back, liking, subscribing, hitting that bell so you guys get all the notifications on these god rolls and builds that we create. So I really appreciate that, and all you guys as always. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Enjoy that dungeon grind. Peace.